Today here in Las Vegas. Anybody know?
Sunny and 65.
I was outside this morning in this shirt.
And what's the weather in the Midwest? I'm so sorry.
Oh my God, it's
Uncle
crazy.
Albert. For those of you who know that song.
All right, so we have a lot to talk about today. Number one, before we even get into it, I'm doing something a little different. We're going to kind of do a little interview with Pops today. So we're going to ask him some
Trying
questions.
to scare me.
Not even an interview. I just want people to know kind of your backstory.
Oh, okay.
And so we're going to be jumping back and forth on that. But if you have a question specifically for this guy, type it below and maybe we will answer your question if it is unique. So we're Dave and Dave Show, episode 31.
So the first thing, that my birthday is June 9th, 1957. And...
I just almost boogered out because I don't have anything there.
No, you're good.
Total aside, there's this big crazy thing going on Ted Bundy right now. Have you read about this?
Nope, but I know who Ted Bundy is.
So Ted Bundy, right, serial killer, and he has a Netflix, not he, but there's a Netflix special on him right now.
Mm-hmm.
And about him, seducing all these girls. And there's also a movie coming out, and Zac Efron plays Ted Bundy. Good-looking Zac Efron, and they're having there's a lot of drama, like they're sensationalizing it. But I guess they considered him good-looking and like the whole nine, like that he would seduce them.
I don't remember.
You remember?
I don't remember.
So we were watching it yesterday, and Son of Sam,
David Berkowitz,
Manson,
mm-hmm.
Ted. It was all around that time that I was born.
Well, no, David Berkowitz, your mother and I were dating in
77,
Queens.
he said 77, 78. That's
it
what
was
they said.
more, a little less.
Was it?
Yeah. But we were going to clubs in Queens, and he was there killing people.
Unbelievable. Of course, my Angie goes, a lot of crazy things happened when you were born. I said, the 70s were crazy.
And they also noticed, I saw a post on Facebook, that the majority of them were Geminis. So watch out, because I am a Gemini. Did you notice that? I can see you
and I both like going from straight killer to totally normal and nobody know.
Okay.
Just kidding.
Don't do anything bad.
Okay, so theme of this one is don't be mass manufactured, be custom.
Okay.
And I think that plays into what we've been talking about lately with the 500, right? So we do
go over a little bit, because two agents asked me and didn't know about it. So just do a fast, the 500.
So we have this thing, the Nest Standard, where we're limiting the amount of agents forever at Urban Nest to 500 agents. Why is this significant? We're at about, well, you know our numbers, we're 420 what?
425.
We're at 425 agents today, right? So that means we only have 75 spots left. Now, agents will leave, agents will come, whatever. But the reality is we saw in the marketplace, and after 7 years of owning Urban Nest, 40 years of you being in the business, over 20 for me, we were like, being presidents, because that gives you some really good, I believe,
local
perspective
on what's going on.
We just felt that there gets a point, I put this thing called a growth paradox here, that I just came up with, that it just gets to a point where you have to focus on growth in different ways. That our agents and this industry is best served if we're able to touch each and every one of them and be able to go deeper with each and every one of them.
A easier way of saying that, rather than growth of agents, we want to have growth of business within the agents that are with Urban Nest.
Well, I've been talking about this a lot lately. I guess I got like a zit on my finger.
Don't OCD on it, please.
And there's this thing about technology and everything about, Gary Keller always says like technology serving, tech-enabled agent, right? Or an agent-enabled tech. And I think he's kind of halfway there, that where people kind of drop the ball, or this industry, is they're not investing in people. And we've been part of so many companies where they thought that the systems were the point of difference, and they missed out on the secret ingredient, and that's the people. And even if you think about like football teams, for instance, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's he's a system quarterback, whatever. I don't care if you have the best system in the world. You need the personnel. The personnel is the actual people who are performing within the system. Great system, no personnel, you're done.
Agreed.
Great personnel, no system, you could at least get by.
Let's review a little bit this week what happened. So we had a free CE to our agents, 40 people in the office, activity buzzing. That was Monday. Tuesday, I gave my broker roundtable interactive, another 40 people buzzing. Today, we have
A lunch and learn with Brian Esposito.
another 40.
Utilize social media on
Right.
Instagram, Facebook. We got another 40
and
at noon.
Right, and then tomorrow,
Cloud CMA, which we offer free for our agents. We have Damon Alton himself, the guy, one of the founders. He's going to be here teaching that thing. And on top of that, aren't you teaching a class on Thursday too, Danny?
no.
No, Damon took over.
No,
Damon
Damon
took over.
But the point is that it's on Facebook, our private Facebook, and it's in the office, and
Next Connect.
that energy is so strong and is creating. We're talking about what listings we're taking new, selling, what we're using to get it, and everything about this week is how to make you a better agent.
Well, and how, people would say, people who are all about growth. I've been up since 3 a.m. I cannot sleep lately. And there's this great...
I'll give you one of my knee shots. You'll sleep like a baby.
There's this great website. It's called Medium.
Mm-hmm.
And there's articles, if I wanted to write an article, I could put it on Medium. And there was one about where people, how they interact, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was all about being involved in people's business, right? So, for instance, what's been going on this week to go forward on you? I've been dealing with so many of the issues that have been going on, just day-to-day, tiny issues, that I'm like, we take for granted that these agents, if they're at other companies, do they even have brokers that are helping them through these things?
I would say some do and majority don't.
Majority don't. And even to this morning, I was helping out Terry on a deal, just a normal one, everything's coming to a head at the end. People are moving at the last minute. Who's going to pay for something? It seems simple, but I think in this industry, agents don't have enough of that help. Someone that...
Well, if you take my class last week, Penny had a listing. We all went over it. You get 40 agents judging that listing. She cannot sell it for 4 months. She gets a 10 grand price reduction that we all recommended. And she sold it Saturday. So on Tuesday, we celebrated another sale instead of seeing that listing expire. When you have an inventory of 7,200, if you don't have that team behind you, listings instead of selling, which all agents out there know, when you get a listing, you feel really high. And we got it sold. So what nirvana we're having.
I don't think, we invest in technology. We do that. We have Cloud CMA. We do so much, but we invest even more so in the people.
In the people.
And that's why our leadership is so important with Jennifer and Georgia. They weren't people who we just picked out of a hat. We've seen companies fall apart not having the right people at the helm. I always use the chef and the restaurant analogy. All right, I went to a restaurant last night that you love. I'm not going to blast them. Where I think it was a different chef, right? And the days that the chef is there and not there, it is a completely different experience. Completely different experience.
So it was no good last night.
To the point where I was skeeved out a little bit. You know what I mean? And that's why it comes down to the people so often. So same thing with our agents. For instance, yesterday, I had an agent who's one of our top producers who wants to get more into leadership, not in GLVR, but leadership within coaching and team building and things like that. And we worked through opportunities and we put a plan together on how she could get into that form, right? It's just, I think that's something that you had as a natural and we do as natural, but we haven't kind of focused on it as far as just telling people we build people, including ourselves.
Exactly.
Right? So that's just something with that.
And we're lucky enough to have two managers that, with new agents, are jewels. Georgia has a whole string of new agent programs, and Jennifer is probably one of the best coaching new agents person one-on-one that I've ever seen. So we're very lucky that we have that.
So let's go back to the 500 because I went off on a tangent.
We always do.
So we're also making a declaration to the marketplace, right? I was talking to a buddy of mine the other day, Sean Cunningham, and he's like, I have never heard of a company do that before. He's like, you should almost. I love the kudos he was giving us. That who actually says that's it, right? And by saying we want to invest in the growth of each agent rather than the growth of just our agent count is something different. But there's a second part to this. We have hired a couple of new agents that have interviewed at different companies or from different companies. This is where it gets, I don't want to say negative, but here's the opportunity. Companies that are either larger than ours or have aspirations to be larger than ours, right? Mm-hmm. Are trying to say, oh, they're only saying that, they'll go above that. That's the way they're countering it, which in a way fuels me up. It's kind of like
it just makes that number stronger by the minute.
It's like I'm doubling down on it right now. Like you could etch it in stone that it's only going to be 500, and who knows, it may be less. And what was interesting to me is how if I'm, these other companies, they've kind of backed themselves into a corner. And here's what you don't want to do in your business, whether you're in real estate, whether you're an agent, whether you own a real estate company, you don't want to set up your program, right, or your business model where you are so committed, invested into space and to these things where you have no choice but to become a bean counter, right? And I get where they're coming from because they have to grow. But I'm going to give you a hint right now. Here's a freebie. If you're a 2,000 person company, the way to go against, to what's the word? To handle the objection of what we're doing is to go, I'm going to be the best 2,000 person company out there, right? I mean, isn't that the way to handle it? Handle an objection rather than try to discount what we're doing. So, listen, this is the way it's going to be. We're super excited about it. And that's just something I wanted to put out there. So if anyone is trying to perpetrate that this isn't going to be the case, this is something that him and I have been talking about for how many years? Mm-hmm. Like a lot of years. Like, when are we going to do this?
And everyone's model is great. We're not knocking anyone's model. We're saying what our model wants to be. So understand that. If you're in a 2,000 person company, it's fine with us.
Well, there isn't a 2,000 person company. That's why I said it.
I know. I'm just saying we're not knocking an over 500 growth model. We're just saying what we want to be. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, and we don't know. It may be 400. Like, we don't know how this is going to work out, but we know in our careers, we've seen the other side of it, and it just becomes a different company. I'm not saying it's a bad.
It becomes a number.
It becomes less people, and we're all about relationships and people. And I believe that that's what's wrong with this industry, is if you're not knee-deep into your relationships and your transactions, you're not doing the job correctly.
Exactly.
If you don't know what's going on with every single transaction that you're involved in, if you're not in front of the face of every single client you have during the transaction, before the transaction, after the transaction, if someone says, hey, you sold my house on 123 Any Street, you should know like all the details about that transaction, right? I mean, you could ask me about transactions 10 years ago and I can tell you like what went down.
You could ask me about 40 years ago and I may remember the address.
So I was thinking about, so I've been reading Inman Connect is going on right now.
Yes, it is. The wind chill today is 10 degrees in Nueva York.
Yeah, I was looking. I was bummed I'm not there.
I was on a phone call this morning for NAR with, and Keith was on it, Keith Lyman, the president, and he said it's 70 degrees in the hotel and I have no intention of leaving it. That's a good answer.
And that's the thing, like as much as I'm missing it, I'm not upset that I'm not there. But they're doing little updates about what all the speakers are doing, right? So they had on Robert Refkin, the Compass guy, right? And this is a company that I believe is really trying to do the right thing. Like, they have very aspirational goals, right?
Why don't you give them a little hint to people of where the Inman is going to be on the latter part of the year?
Are you sidetracking me?
Yes.
Why?
Because Inman is such a great event, I want you to just tell them they moved it.
It's going to be, it's going from San Francisco to Las Vegas in July.
July?
They do it twice a year.
Okay, so July, all of us here could go to Inman?
Yeah, it's not cheap, so you may want to get your tickets now. It could get up to like $1,100 per ticket.
Well, it's good to send half of us, which would be you.
I'm already going. I'm on the MLS committee.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, I'm going.
So, now I lost my train of thought. Anyway,
You were saying how young and
Robert Refkin, very great leader. Compass, they have $1 billion in backing. But even he admitted, this isn't us talking trash, he admitted on it, he's like, they're slowing down their growth, they've grown too fast.
I saw it.
There's something about doing things, that's that growth paradox I'm talking about. I don't even know if it exists. I was sleeping and came up with it, right? Like,
In your dreams.
the focus shouldn't always be on grow. And then there was a great segment about indie brokerages versus franchise brokerages, right? And I'm not here to put down franchise brokerages either, but one of the strengths, I believe, of indies is our size. When you're smaller, you have the ability to make quick turns and be able to take care of your people, and you're not stuck with the dogma of the corporate.
The other advantage we have is that it doesn't take 15 levels to make an idea come true. It could be you and I, and we're an indie, and we can make that decision, and it could happen in a day. That's one of the, I have so many people talking about red tape. Well, I have to, even if they want to leave a company, they have to do 4 interviews. It's just silly.
So it's a difference of, I always say, Olive Garden and, your favorite local Italian place. You know what I mean? All right, so let's segue into
my interview.
No, the market.
Oh,
we don't have to do stats because it's the end of January, right?
No. Stats are good. It picked up this week, is all I'm gonna say.
Another Inman, they had they didn't have an economist. Excuse me. They had a guy who does numbers and who's in the mortgage industry. Mortgage opens are up like crazy. And what he was talking about is that population bubble. Something that we've been talking about since 2012. You don't know what I'm talking about.
There's not many people having babies, so
no, there's still not enough houses.
Oh,
for the population.
Existing population.
Yes, and the ones coming, because the people coming into home buying age, right, and then the boomers living longer, we don't have enough housing. So he was saying that the next 3 years, we're still in amazing shape. It was a very, very rosy forecast
and
for
I see
our
that
industry.
Myself.
You want it to be like that, so it's comforting to hear it, but my rational side says it does feel like that still.
The only thing I think that stopped us, December, the holidays, and the unsure government. I don't like that government shutdown stuff. I listened to the news today, and Congress is going to do anything not to let it happen again.
Yeah.
And that takes confidence, consumer confidence away, whether it's housing or vehicles or whatever. So other than that, the interest rates are really decent, and consumer confidence will be great. And I see a strong market for those out there buying, selling, or working.
So it's this guy named Patrick Stone from Williston Financial Group. And the way he's putting it is we're closing the affordability gap at a noticeable rate. So what our biggest issue was is that we were the wages were down and the houses were going up. So what he's saying is that the wages are starting to finally increase and the housing prices are starting to level off. So he thinks that the return of the first-time home buyer is coming, which would be amazing. We're closing the affordability gap at a noticeable rate.
We have some more innovative loans coming up. FHA, yay! That's really high at once. I think 330 something from 287. So you could do a zero down FHA loan.
You said there's been a 24% jump in loan applications. So, and even with the new homes, and this is what I've been saying since 2017, right? When I'm talking to Applied Analysis with Jeremy Guerrero and Brian Gordon, we have this population bubble, is what we call, right? And they're not building new homes fast enough. So it's not like the old days where they were building 38,000 new homes a year in Las Vegas. Now we're lucky to see, with all of the kind of extenuating circumstances, 10,000 new homes a year, right? Builders are less likely to spec out, right? Put themselves in bad situations. We have lumber issues, land issues, labor. It's the 4 L's, right? Legislation. So he's saying that we're only going to see 16 million new homes in the next 5 years nationwide, which is not going to be able to serve the need. So back to the original point, and I know we beat this with a dead horse, but it needs to be said. We're still only a 3-month supply. It's just you have more options. It just isn't as crazy as it used to be. This is like an evening out. If we can even out like this and not see a dip, this could be the perfect situation, like the perfect time.
As far as that, I agree. It's price it right.
I couldn't agree more. Okay. All right, so let's jump back to you.
Okay.
So tell them, here's my first question. We don't have any questions yet. Do we have questions? We don't have it. Give me some questions for Poppa Dave. All right, let's start with this. When you graduated high school, after that, what did you do for a living?
I graduated high school in 1970.
Being honest, I like this.
Yeah, if you're giving the interview, I can't joke. And I went for free to Queens College because I had straight A's and good SAT. While I went to Queens College, I worked a job. I worked quite a few jobs. And then at 21, I got engaged to your mom, and the opportunity came to be a police officer because I took that test. So at 21, 3 years in college, I left college and became a police officer.
So you were NYPD?
The housing branch of NYPD.
You're a housing cop.
Right.
In a wonderful area of Jamaica, Queens?
It was called Long Island City, which now is, I heard,
nice.
Booming. That's
Really?
where Amazon and all went. Long Island City.
Long Island City. Wasn't necessarily when you were
Under
there.
the Queensboro Bridge.
Nice.
Queensridge Housing Project.
But you weren't necessarily in love with being a cop, right?
The hours, your mom and I lived in the city, so at that time, it wasn't bad, but you walked alone. So on my beat, I walked alone.
Gotcha. So how did you transition into the fire department?
So in the following year, we married. The following 2 years after that, we moved to Long Island. And then she became pregnant with you.
Okay, so 1977.
Right? And I decided I had taken the fire, and the fire called me. And I decided at that point to transfer to be a firefighter.
So did Grandpa put pressure on you? Was he disappointed you were a cop and wanted you to be the firefighter? He didn't care?
Civil servant family.
Did not care.
My brother Danny went the same way. Police to...
Oh, did he?
Yeah, police to fire. So it was a normal transition in the city to go police fire. It wasn't so much fire to police. At the same time, when your mom was pregnant with you, I took my real estate test. In 77, I got my license, March of 77.
You're 42 years now, huh?
Coming up.
Wow. So, let's, just a little backstory. Grandpa, your father, Dan Tina, tell a little about him in the fire department. He was pretty well known, right?
Well, my dad was very into being Italian American. He was first generation. So he was president of Columbia Association, which had a large amount of firemen in it, and I could say firemen in those days we did not have women, and then the women came in during my tenure, and he was very political. So
Was he a captain?
no,
Really?
no, his life was in the Italian part,
Okay.
and taught me a lot politically wise on sticking up for minorities. People forget Italians were and
Minorities.
still be a minority.
Still haven't seen an Italian president.
No.
There's an interesting story. Like there's this Chicago fire department letter, right? And it says they're talking about Italians, and they said we're not going to hire these monkeys.
Right.
That they were talking about Italians.
Mm-hmm.
That's how crazy it was back in the day. And you had an Irish captain who did not like you because you were Italian, right?
Well, one of the names was WAP, and it was working without papers.
Oh, are you kidding me? That's
what
how it was
false.
WAP?
Yeah.
So Guinea WAP was working without papers.
Yes.
So like an illegal immigrant. Wow, boy, history repeats itself.
You
over and
bet.
over.
We're all there.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah, you didn't even know.
I did not know that. So you first fire department, I have great memories from that place. Where were you?
Corona, Queens, burning down.
You were there a long time, right?
Yeah. I was there 15 years. I used to put you on my back and take
We
you
went down the thing.
which now is totally illegal. Do not do that. But I did.
He would come home from the fire department, and there was a smell of fire on him that you could not get out. Like
I had hair then. I couldn't get out of my hair.
it was unbelievable.
No.
Unbelievable. All right, so from 73, you were a cop. Then like 74, 75, you became...
77.
Oh, you became a policeman in 77.
A fireman.
Oh, excuse me, a fireman in 77. So you did that for a long time, but at the same time, now you had your license. You were able to do real estate.
I worked as a firefighter 24 hours, 8 days a month. The other 22 days, I was trying to sell houses.
Now, here's what's interesting about him. No really formal education on, like, business at all, right?
Zero.
Grandpa wasn't a businessman. He gets into real estate. And you figure out at a pretty early age, maybe I should buy some houses,
Yes.
right? I mean,
Yes.
what were you I never asked you, what were you thinking back then when you were like, wow, I'm on my own. I got this son. Because you didn't buy any houses when you married to my mother.
All the chances I took were after.
After. So was Bellport Road the first one?
Yes.
All right, so Bellport Road. What's going through your mind at this point as far as risk?
I said to myself, I have one house with a mortgage. I'm never going to get rich or be financially secure. That's the right word.
Yeah, because we weren't even close to financially secure.
Unless I take a chance. So I took a pension loan. I took a home improvement loan.
Did you really?
Yeah, I did. And I bought my first rental.
Mm-hmm. Bellport Road. And you, I remember we were in there working on it. I remember the house to the T.
You have to do sweat equity at that stage.
You did. Just to give you context, we were never like broken down poor. Like
No.
we can't make our story better like that. But we had cars with rot in them where you could see the road.
That was just giving you an extra view, a different perspective of driving.
Cars that broke down all the time. You know, like
You live paycheck to paycheck.
Paycheck to
That's
paycheck,
the fair
yes.
way of saying it. But
just-
paycheck always came in.
it was a meager beginning. Fair? Fair?
Yes.
Okay. So you buy the house in Bellport Road. Was that in the 80s or?
That was in the 80s, yeah.
Okay. Then
Early
you
80s.
you buy the house on by the restaurant. That was before you bought the restaurant. Or no, that was after.
After I bought the rest.
So did you own any houses before the restaurant?
Libby's,
than-
the one on Richmond Avenue.
Richmond Avenue. Okay. So when people are like, I don't have enough time, or they have all these excuses, here's Exhibit A. Divorced. Didn't have me only 8 days of the month, right? You had me every other
22
Up
days.
to 11 years old, then he had me all the time, right? Worked as a fireman. And it wasn't like, oh, I'm just going to drive down the street. It was, I'm going to drive, what, 50 miles?
60 miles.
60 miles into the city, be a fireman, work 24 hours, drive back. Then decides still gets his real estate license because but you also had to partner up with somebody because you couldn't be there all the time.
The reality is, if you cannot cover all the time, better than lose that client, that buyer, seller, grab a partner.
And didn't get greedy. You weren't greedy.
No.
You partnered with a great agent that it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to take the agent that's going to give me the best deal. I got the agent that I know is going to take care of my people.
I got the agent that made both of us better.
Yes.
As a team, we both became better agents.
So then, because this wasn't enough, 86 decides with 3 other people, I'm going to open a restaurant down the street in Long Island.
2 other people originally.
2 other people, you brought in the third, right?
Right. So I took another second mortgage. Took a second mortgage on that one, and my mother was crying.
Was she really?
Oh yeah,
I could see
my mom
Virginia
was
not being
saying,
happy.
my David won't have a house under him, meaning you.
So let's go mindset again. I mean, who were you even having these conversations with? Like,
you. Because I knew you would say, can they feed me, Daddy? And I'd say, yeah, and you didn't particularly like my cooking.
I know, but we were having, which is interesting you said that, because I do remember as a young boy, I was having these like adult conversations throughout, and I appreciate that, because one of the things I think that people do wrong with their kids is they don't talk to them like adults, and I
treat them like a child, they'll act like a child.
And I talk to sometimes people think I'm being hard on my kids because I hold them to adult standards. Like, we have adult conversations. And I remember us having those conversations, but I didn't remember the risk. Like, I was too young to realize the risk involved.
Of course.
But again, I remember having this conversation with you later on in life, but just reiterate for them, like, how are you saying, what's my downside? Like, where am I at with this, right? Like, what if the restaurant failed?
So when my mom was upset because she was worried about Dave, I said, listen, if my mortgage is X and I make it XX and it's a greater payment, I'll work a little more overtime in the firehouse, I'll sell a few more houses, and I'll pay off my debt that way. If the restaurant succeeds, then I'm going to put myself in another level, and I'll be inviting you and Dad out to dinner every week to come see Dave play football, baseball, and every other sport you played. And fortunately,
I was around 11 at that point.
Fortunately, it worked well, and they were out there for dinner every weekend. And
so let's go to like 1988, because actually not even 88. Yeah, 88 to 93 was probably the busiest you ever were.
Right.
Because you were still at the fire department. Now this is one of the things I believe is how you can outlast anybody. He was successful in real estate already, successful in the restaurant. The restaurant changed our lives, right? We went from like paycheck to paycheck to like, wow, like I could get really nice clothes for school, and right, like
redid the house.
We did the
basement for you.
We had 900 square feet in one little tiny bathroom. The basement changed the game. That added how much? That like doubled our house, right?
It had about 600 square feet and another bathroom.
Which back then was a big deal for us, especially.
For you. I got rid of you.
Separate entrance, too. Although Kizzy, my dog, always sold me out every time someone came up. Mm-hmm. But during that time frame, you could have easily said, you know what? Forget the fire department. I'm out, right? Mm-hmm. And you didn't say that. Why didn't you say that? Because everyone was like, why are you still commuting to the fire department?
Yep.
Right?
They wanted me to take early pension.
Yeah, so you had about a couple of years left, but you did transition out of the fire.
I did not take early pension. I took my 20 years.
But you went from the fire department, you were doing something else. You were helping the programs, right?
In the last years, I had a few little heart complications.
Did you really back then?
Yes.
Wow, that was a little precursor, huh?
Yeah, I had a left bundle branch blockage.
Son of a bitch, that could have been the beginning.
That could have been. But anyway, so that brought me in my last 2 years to work in training with the new firemen, which I loved.
So here's the thing. So you get half pay. Now, he had put in 16, 17 years of civil service work.
20.
Before you took the half pay.
Oh, right.
Right? He was seeing the fruits of his labor come to fruition.
Yeah, at 15 years.
Right?
They were all telling me to quit.
But he was like, you know what? If I can last 4 or 5 more years, my health care is taken care of for the rest of my life, and I get a pension, albeit it's in relative to where we're at now.
Today it isn't.
It isn't much, but it's still a nice little couple $1,000s a month, right? He had the discipline to keep it going, to take the risk, but also be able to continue doing the work. Because at the time he was a fireman, he owned a restaurant, which in the beginning years of the restaurant, just like here, you can't hire managers, you do it yourself, right?
So I worked 3 nights for
my dinner table was at the restaurant, right?
Right.
It was only like a mile away from our house. So raising me at that time, I was in my
That was a full-time job.
I was playing sports, and the guy never missed one football game, one wrestling match, one anything. So he did all of that, and we made it work. Like, he was out the door way before I woke up. I had to wake myself up, get ready for school, and then get picked up. But if I wasn't ready to go, so it worked out well, but we made it work, right?
You make it work.
So, 93, you retire from the fire department. Now, in 93, the restaurant is not running itself, but you have general managers. You have
I'm not managing it.
You're finally able to focus completely on real estate.
My 60 hours a week in real estate. Yeah.
And you flourish.
Oh my God, it was Nirvana.
It was your thing. Yeah. So he's crushing it. I start getting football scholarships locally, Hofstra, things like that. And I fall in love with a girl and decide I'm going to move to Las Vegas because her family moved her out to Las Vegas.
And that was my punishment for raising you so independent that you decided that at 17.
So you're at your height, right? The restaurant is at its peak. Your career is at its height. You're retired, and I throw a monkey wrench into the entire thing, right? Super intelligently, he did a couple of things that we glossed over. First of all, he forced his partners into buying the actual building where they were doing the restaurant.
I wouldn't buy it I wouldn't open a restaurant unless we owned the building.
Super smart because you get value on the restaurant. It's a little harder in the beginning, but no one's dictating your rent.
Right.
Also buys a house across the street for parking and things like that, right? I don't think you made good money on it. Did you make good money on that one? Not really.
50 grand, yeah.
So I moved to Vegas, and he is like Mr. Long Island, and I'm like, he's never going to come to Vegas. Well, then some things start changing. They start opening an Applebee's a couple miles away, right?
No, but I said then it's time to sell the restaurant.
Which again, talk about a natural. We know the stats now that 9 out of 10 restaurants are gone in the first 5 years, and that the next 9 out of 10 are gone within the next 5 years. So 99 out of 100 are gone in 10 years. This thing was open for
10 years.
10 years. Still sold it. The growth paradox. Rather than open 10 of them and think you're invincible, sell it at its peak, right? And he exits out. Starts visiting me. And what happened then?
Once a week.
Once a month, not once a week.
1 week every month.
Yes.
So I would work like 22 days straight, 23 days straight at real estate, no days off. And then come out here for a week to check up on, because I bought a house for him here.
So?
And people say, oh, you bought him a house? No, I bought a house so he'd become a resident and tuition would drop to local tuition.
Again, super intelligent.
After 2 years, sold the restaurant.
Now,
Gave up my management position in Coldwell Banker because I became a manager and opened a branch.
and you get an offer from Prudential right before you leave.
For the most fantastic 6-figure salary in 97 I came.
Yeah.
And I sold 4 houses, the restaurant, and I said no, knowing no one but Dave, I'm moving to Vegas.
Moves to Vegas, and now after 2 years of being on my own, here we are again together. So here he is, and he's doing nothing. He's playing nickels.
Nickel video poker.
And kind of just getting the lay of the land in Vegas. Mm-hmm. Finally, I'm like, when are you going to get your license? Like, what are you doing? Like, how old were you at the time? You were young.
45.
No, 90. Oh, yeah, you were. Oh.
Trust me.
45.
And he says,
that's only 4 years away from me.
Yeah,
And
I know.
You're ready to retire?
And he's saying laying around. I got there on Memorial Day, for those of you who know Memorial, and I had my license by August. So his laying around was getting rid of me after a month of me being in the house.
And this little shit, he does not study for the test. I'm like, you sure you got this? He goes in and he passed the test. I was like, unbelievable. So then you start doing real estate. I throw him another curveball, and I decide that I'm going to go to Arizona State free.
So now I know no one. I'm in this big house, and
it was like,
guess who's going to Arizona State?
So I go to Arizona State. Little by little, you join first. First, you're at Coldwell Banker with Bob Hamrick, the
Right.
one that used to be on Rainbow.
Right.
Right? A lot of people were in that office. Because that's what he knew in Long Island.
I was in.
So then what happened then?
Then I discovered there's such a thing as 100%. Nothing against Coldwell, great company.
Great broker.
And I went to 100%, which was called Properties Plus. Within a year, they were having financial issues, so they got bought by Century 21. I joined Realty Execs.
That's when I got my license.
And that's for 10 great years. They were phenomenal company. 7, and that was the move. I sold.
So he's glossing over a lot. Coldwell Banker, you get in the lay of the land, doing some real estate, doing some business, right? Goes to Property Plus, starts, I mean, by the time you're at Properties Plus, you were doubling your best year ever on Long Island, right?
And we were going to buy our first house in
Red Rock
Country Club.
So a lot of you are young, but some of you aren't. If you remember the show called The Jeffersons.
Not the Jeffersons.
It's The Jeffersons. I used to say we're the Italian version of The Jeffersons. Moving on up, because we moved to Red Rock Country Club. And at the time, in 1999, when we bought it, we moved in 2000. We just looked it up. It was like $350, right?
$350.
And you were like, oh my God, Dave, we're taking a real chance here.
Yeah.
Taking a real chance. But he was savvy enough. They were really mispricing the lots. They made the golf course lots on the East Gate only $30,000, right?
$30,000. The house is for sale today. I sold it for $500,000 2 years later.
Paid $350, sold it for $500.
Right. And took the money free and then moved into another Red Rock. And it's on the market for $775.
Unbelievable. And then he did that a couple of times in Red Rock, really
About
understood.
7 times.
But here's where it's really interesting. Your best year in real estate, given is the 80s and 90s, was barely 6 figures, right? And not even, right? Probably in real estate.
Mm-hmm.
When we got in here, he started in Vegas. He doubled it. He tripled it. He quadrupled it. He had years where he did $25 million in real estate. His average sale was like $700,000-$800,000. Like, you pretty much on your own, not knowing a single person other than me, created yourself into this. And then that led to even more opportunities. When the market went 2008 or 2007, we were at Realty Execs at the time. He was trying to help Realty Execs survive, even though he wasn't an owner or a manager. He was kind of an unofficial one. And finally, we just said screw it and went to Realty One Group. At the time, Realty One Group, they had a lot of agents, but it was like $25 a month. No one was doing it. There was no producers.
We weren't in the top 100.
And they, not we. I'm just kidding. So we're not even at 30 days, and we're like, oh boy, we may be in the wrong spot, right? So we're like, we're going to leave. And the owner was savvy enough to offer him a position to run the whole thing.
No, Summerlin.
Well, Summerlin, that's right.
Summerlin.
Which was the brand new brokerage at the time, beautiful office. He builds this beautiful office that by the time it was finished, my father had hired so many people that it was no longer even useful.
We got to stay 1 year and it was too small.
It was too small. And in full irony, the Realty Executives in Summerlin that we were at was a big office, 10,000 square feet.
Which closed.
They vacated that, and it came available right when we outgrew Realty One there. And so Realty One moved into the office, and there we were back in the same office. That led to eventually becoming the general manager after making it the biggest office ever, #1 branch.
All the branches became #1.
So between 10 years of being a top producing agent, 10 years being a general manager and a manager, decided to throw your hat into the public, right? With GLVAR.
Yes.
And a whole nother career started as well. So
we didn't even talk about that. So for those of you who ask me when I'm retiring, the answer is never.
But for those of you who are new or maybe feel like the odds are stacked against you, you have to understand, in 1980, 81, you were like 50, 60,000
In debt.
in the hole, single dad. By the time my mom moved to Texas when I was 11, so at 11 it was just me and him. He managed to make it the whole way. This is what movies are made of, right? These are what books are made. They are. And the reality is, everyone can make it. You just have to do it.
And why are we doing this interview?
You getting uncomfortable?
Well, it's nice, but enough. I'm sweating.
It's good to know the history and the story, especially of my father, an icon in his business. But it's good to know, like, everyone looks at our relationship and they don't understand how you built the relationship. They look at your career and they don't understand the foundation. Everyone only sees the tough times. You know, they say overnight success, right? But they don't see the 40 years
No, it's not overnight.
of what you have to do, the grind of being a father, being a businessman, being all those roles in one. But it's not only inspiring, but hopefully it's like, wow, I could do that too, because people have done it.
Never ending. We go next year to regional vice president for NAR.
You know, and even then
I look forward to new and new and new.
And we had a health scare when you were 52 that we got past, and you think 14 years. In those 14 years, I talked about it a little bit on Making Sense Common. What has happened in 14 years?
You got married and gave me 2 granddaughters and a daughter I never had.
Also, you're the president of local association, state association, opened a company. We work together. I mean, half the time we're having battles about what direction we want to do things. Those are 2 strong Italians, but you look back, and this is when I get so frustrated with him, or he gets frustrated with me. You know, we're going to be able to look back and be like, we got to work with each other and spend all this time with each other. You know what I mean?
When I'm gone.
It's a good story. I don't know. But now you got a little bit. We're going to be doing interviews, but I figured, what a great way to start with you.
I didn't know we're doing interviews.
The icon, you are the papa of the whole thing.
Yeah.
You're so comfortable with this. He doesn't like it. All right.
I don't
so
like talking
we're
about
gonna go. We're gonna go light. We're gonna bring in a special guest with Wild Dog.
Who were just sitting out there and learned my whole life while Dave just gave his interview.
Good morning, Dave.
Good morning.
How are you? So this is actually a great time for you to be involved with us. In our Nest standard, what we have implemented, we are making it required that agents get professional photos, right? So my dad is always looking at our listings and just saying, like, what can you do to enhance your listing? There are many ways to enhance it, whether how you put the directions in and how you position it, because it's all about positioning, correct?
Yes.
But starting
Visual.
is number one.
That's how it starts now. We were talking about it in the class yesterday. And what I like, what you're doing, first of all, I like that you could start with any picture you want rather than the front of the house, because we now know.
Sometimes the money shot is the bathroom. You know?
Right.
Yeah.
And start with the best picture. But what I like in the options you're offering is I like that you're doing the aerial to see how the house sits.
Yes.
And for a guy like me, I'm quirky. If I'm in a 1-story, one of my requirements is to have a 1-story on either side of me. If it's a 2-story, so when I look at the aerial and I say, wow, it's a 1-story and a 2-story neighborhood, but I got a 1-story on either side of me, my comfort level, that comes from your aerials. It also shows me east-west, what I'm looking at. So when I'm going online looking as a buyer, what I love is that you offer all those different things, and that's very cool.
Yeah.
We've actually seen an increase in the aerial requests, both pictures, still photos, and video. So yeah, it's definitely a trend. It's cool, you know. Google Maps, even if you switch to the satellite view, cannot give you all the details.
No.
So I totally agree.
Yeah.
And you guys do it all, so it's really nice. Like you're able to
Yep.
do as small as like, what's your cheapest on a condo under 1,500 square feet?
89.
$89. I mean, there's no excuse.
Yeah.
I mean,
None.
that is the absolute minimum required today. Especially now, there's more competition.
It's the number of houses are increasing drastically, but where does almost 100% of the search start now? Online? Crappy pictures, no inquiry.
Yeah.
If the agents haven't figured that out by now, they're not doing this business. It has to be professional.
So that's why we partnered with Wild Dog, because they, you know, we've had other ones in the past that do a great job, but they didn't do it all.
Yeah.
The fact that you do Matterport, you do the
The
aerials.
3D, that's also a big trend lately. We've done, like in the last 3 months, aerials, Matterport, also videos, really, was a favorite add-on for just still photos. So yeah, we do it all. And we just, react to the demand of the market so we can kind of see what's going on. It's cool, but yeah, we are ready for...
Anything new coming? Have you heard of companies like Box Brownie?
Yes, I did.
Where they could put stuff in?
Furniture.
Virtual staging is really cool. It's a great trend, and it's worth for higher-end properties where you don't have the furniture anymore. However, for just like an average, listing that we come across most often, it's really kind of pricey.
It
like
is
the
pricey.
price per picture, it's
expensive.
Yeah. So it really depends. But
In a large home, where in a normal home it isn't worth it, where this is the living room, this is the dining room, this is the kitchen. It's simple. But in a larger home where, is this a den? Is this another den?
the
Is it a
added
bed?
furniture can definitely help the buyer.
It distinguishes the rooms you're in.
Yes.
So I agree, on a normal
We
traditional.
don't offer it ourselves yet. We were actually thinking about it, but there are some really good companies, like you mentioned. We tried Box Brownie, and we work with a couple agents who have their own virtual stagers, it's usually outsourced from
It is kind of pricey, but if you
overseas,
take the
but-
price of actually staging it with furniture.
Oh, definitely. That's,
then it's
you got
expensive.
it. Yeah. I mean, like compared to our services, sometimes
Well,
clients are,
yes.
$119, okay, and then you gotta pay like $40 per picture for virtual staging. So it's just the comparison.
Yeah.
But it's also part of the negotiation with the client. You could offer it to the client if you're a client out there and you're like, here are your options. You could stage the house
Right.
or...
Well, like I said, on the rooms where they don't know what the rooms are being used for, I would have virtual staging because it explains the use of the room.
And then you get
In
to
a
the point where you're like,
traditional house, not so
well,
much.
I'm partially furnished right now, right?
Yeah, you're
I'd say
missing
like
2 rooms.
70%. And we had the conversation because you guys, the picture's gorgeous, but there's only so much you can do with a room that doesn't have anything in it,
Right.
right? All right, it's a dining room, whatnot. Then you start saying to yourself, well, if I stage it, it's going to cost me $1,600 a month to stage it.
To put actual.
I might as well just buy furniture
Right.
or do the virtual staging. So, but yeah, that's kind of cool. But you guys do soup to nuts though and everything. And some of like, for instance, with Angie's high end, I mean, then you can start getting into the thousands and things like that.
Yeah.
But
That's
if you
where
have
it
a
makes sense.
If you have $1 million listing and you're going to make that kind of money, that's the investment you have to make.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Because for such a listing, you go not with just stills, you do the aerials, you do the Matterport, you do the villa walkthrough. You can even like talk to the camera, then you include the aerial like flyover. So yeah.
And before, for instance, some of our agents doing high-end stuff, before that, they had to hire like 3 different entities to show up.
Done, yeah.
And that
We do
is-
it all. We are able to, manage it time-wise. We try to schedule it so it makes sense, and we just
Yeah,
are
I mean,
efficient. That's
they make it work. Imagine trying to schedule 3 different people at once. You have usually a high-end client who's like, I don't want to be bothered, right? So one time, in and out.
And the great part, and I'm not saying they're reasonably priced, and we all know that most of the time we're taking pictures, whether the listing sells or not, it's the agent's expense. So to get the quality of your picture and to get a reasonable price, that's an ad that you brought to the industry.
You know what's funny with the shutdown? And I was like saying, everyone was like, oh my God, you're going to work and you're not getting paid. There's no guarantee you're getting paid, right? You're a federal worker. I said, welcome to real estate, baby.
Well, we also have satisfaction guarantees, so there's always a risk. We take pictures if you're not happy. It does not happen, but it's an option. So.
Beautiful. We have your information here, wilddogdigital.com, 826-8708.
Yeah,
That's
check
correct.
our Facebook page, Instagram, we have it all. Twitter,
What's the trend right now? I'm going to give you, what are agents asking for now that they haven't been asking for before?
Definitely there's an increase in the aerials.
Aerial.
Yeah, I would.
Good
That's
feeling.
the number one, and
Okay.
that's great.
Mm-hmm.
But I would also say the 3D Matterport
Got it.
for higher end listings. It's a must. Like especially for buyers that are out of state, they're able to literally walk in through the house. Take turns. It's not like a video where they tell you the direction. You can also explore all the rooms. It creates the 3D dollhouse view, so it really gives you the best perception of the property.
And I know you're right on the aerials because us as agents, if they're not in the pictures, we hit our map on MLS, which gives us the aerial to show us if there's anything negative or anything. So I know that should be because as an agent, we have the ability to do that. But as a buyer, you have to give them the ability to do that by taking a picture of the area. So.
And I don't even think it's just high end anymore. If you're taking a $300,000
No, aerial should be to me in all of them.
you want to point a difference. You walk in with here and be like, here's what I'm going to do for your listing, right? You're going to give me a 6-month contract, and I'm going to get what I'm worth because I'm going to deliver all of these services out of my pocket, whether or not your house sells or not. That's the contract in the agreement. So beautiful. We couldn't be happier. We're glad you're a partner.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us. Thank you for waiting for our thing.
I got the
had the chance to listen, and it was really cool.
We're almost done. We're not done yet.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Have a wonderful day.
Good seeing you again.
See you soon again.
See, so I guess I fixed the issue on my phone. We're 56 minutes in.
And we made it.
I deleted a bunch of stuff off my phone. You know what it was? As I was downloading music, it was just downloading rather than staying on the cloud.
Yeah.
All right, so there's 2 things we didn't finish. Well, we're just one. There's leaders in name only that bring it full circle. I joke that I'm in so many spaces where people have leadership titles, but they're not leaders. And they're not entrepreneurs, they're not managers, and they're not willing to show up when the things get heated. And I think here's what I wanted to talk about just very quickly, and then we can finish it up, is everybody says they want to be the leader, the broker, the manager. But when the tough conversations are happening, when things are going wrong, do you step up and take the phone call and take care of it? And that is one of the things I felt that being a personalized company is what sets it apart. I mean, all week, all month, that's what you're doing.
And you, and Jen, and Georgia.
Well, I'll give you an example. So we had that deal I was telling you that was falling apart. I was in here yesterday morning taking care of it. I fell asleep last night at 9, so the agent couldn't get a hold of me. 9 p.m. Okay? She called Georgia. Georgia took care of it. Me taking the girls home to school this morning before I came here and had to stop over at the house. I was taking care of it again. On the phone with the other agent. Not even going after the agent, actually saying to the agent, like, I understand the position we're in. Here's what you need. Here's what I would say to the clients from us, blah, 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 right? No word from the other broker, but I'm right in the middle of it. And I know you do that, Jennifer does that, Georgia does that all week. So it's not, listen, you could have the leadership title. You could be on the board. You could be the owner of a company. You could be the broker. But it means nothing. All right. Theme is don't be mass manufactured. Don't be a copy, be an original. So the way we're looking at it is be custom. Each one of you are individuals. That's why we're going to treat you like that. Only 500 of you, limited edition. Good luck to all of you. Think we're not going to follow through with this commitment? You shall see. Anything, and then just a nice way. It felt good running through your whole life like that.
I was ready to sing memories as we.
You got a little.
Yeah, you know. Going through your life.
We got 1 minute. Here's what I'm gonna say. There's these. I don't know what the name of it is, but people in LA, instead of birthday parties, they have these funerals while they're alive every year. And what they do is it's like your birthday. And not like a negative way, but they literally get up and they talk about you like...
Yeah, I would never be able to take that.
Isn't that cool though?
Yeah, not me.
This is how I feel about Dave.
Yeah.
Why not hear the things about you while you're alive during your birthdays than when you're dead?
Because they'd use up all their kudos for when
No.
they're
I gotta tell you, Pops, talking about all this, you think about Dave and Dave Show episode 31. This Dave and Dave Show has been 40 years running. 41 years.
What do you want? Don't cut your age if I'm not
good.
allowed.
It's good. We hope you enjoy it. We love doing it. We love what we do. This 500 is even a deeper commitment into our people, into everybody, our family. And that's what we really believe in. So thank you for watching.
Thank you.